Hey everybody, this is Perch. Remember back when everybody was concerned that Jeff Thorne was going to kill off Hal Jordan and ruin the Green Lanterns? Well, as it turned out, one of the big Green Lanterns, Guy Gardner, a character that's God, how long? When was Guy Gardner introduced? In the '60s, I think. I think in the late '60s, Guy Gardner was introduced. He's been around forever, but it wasn't Jeff Thorne who wound up killing him. It was Tom King. So let's take a step back and explain kind of what happened. This week, in a title called The Human Target, which is a DC Black Label book. It's 12 issues. It features pretty astonishing art by Greg Smallwood, and at least in this case, none of the editors are drawing in weird little eyes, and his characters are just letting the art be as it is, and the book does look gorgeous. It features Christopher Chance, who is the Human Target, a character kind of from obscurity, but this book, when it was introduced, was going to go through a lot of the Justice League that holds a fond place in people's hearts, and that Justice League was basically Justice League International, and this was some called it the Wahaha era, but this came out of the Legends series, and you had a new Justice League that included Guy Gardner and Batman, Captain Marvel, Fire, Ice, Blue Beetle, Booster Gold, the Martian Manhunter, and it's remembered very fondly of being, some good comedy and definitely some great art. Kevin Maguire just really came into his own, drawing incredible expressions of these characters. It was something new. It was something fun. And if you got into comics in the 80s, this was a series that everybody collected. It was just great. I'm actually looking at the omnibus on my shelf right now. Holds very fond memories in my heart, this Justice League series. In this series, Guy Gardner was basically the tough guy, brash Green Lantern that got put down a peg by Batman. And when Batman punched him, Guy then had another head injury. He knocked himself out, and he became this kind and gentle, kind of sweet character for a while, which was also funny. And then Guy had another head injury and went back to his kind of more normal swagger self. But it was a fun book, and Guy Gardner, I think, gained a lot of fans during that period of being kind of the tough guy, but also, somewhere deep down, maybe even not that deep down, a heart of gold. And he started dating Ice, which was kind of the super innocent character on the Justice League. And he was the kind of the stereotypical brash tough guy, and she was the innocent kind of flower who was new to ways in the world. And ultimately, she got killed by the Overmaster, and then ultimately brought back to life, as they do. Guy Gardner would go on to, lose his ring, and then he would get a yellow ring, and then he had this Guy Gardner Warrior era, which was pretty terrible, actually, in a lot of ways. I don't know. I think this was during Zero Hour, or right around that time. But then he got back to the Corps. He joined the Red Lantern Corps for a while. There was a lot of things that went on there, but basically, Guy Gardner was a popular character, did very well. So what happens in Human Target is that, Christopher Chance is trying to figure out who tried to assassinate Lex Luthor and accidentally poisoned him instead. And a lot of these, basically the trail led to the members of the Justice League International, where there was a poison came from one of them. So he started investigating the Martian Manhunter, Booster Gold, and Ice. And then, basically Christopher Chance gets into a intimate, a romantic relationship with Ice. They start sleeping together. And it's got kind of a noir type feel, but it's classic, and by classic I mean painful, Tom King, in that it's this decompressed look. A lot of the innocence of the original Justice League of this title was revealed to be kind of a facade, and maybe these people are not that nice, and Ice isn't that nice, and all these characters are kind of have a darker, more sinister side to them, and they're also kind of depressed and bad and everything else. And through the course of this, as Ice is getting this romantic relationship going with Chance, Guy Gardner gets wind of it and starts getting frustrated and irritated. It becomes, again, the classic jealous boyfriend type. Even though they're not dating, Gardner basically tries to bully Chance and push him around. And he's kind of all of the growth that had happened from Guy Gardner through the 90s and 2000s, particularly when he was a Red Lantern and we learned a lot more about kind of the heroic aspect of Guy Gardner. We through this course, all that gets tossed away, and Guy Gardner's kind of reduced to this very one note, background bully number 3 in a Netflix show is the equivalent of his personality. So he finally, in issue 6, the issue that came out this week, Gardner tries to, attack Chance, is again the toxic, jealous boyfriend, and he attacks both Ice and Chance as kind of in a temper tantrum, and Ice basically, winds up in a very, just cynical way. Gets through his shields and winds up freezing him to death, basically freezing him into ice. And this allows Christopher Chance the opportunity to get in there and basically punch him and murder him. So he falls into little icy pieces all over the floor. Now, what's notable here is Guy Gardner is basically frozen in place, can't really talk. Chance is hurt, and he sees that Guy Gardner is now helpless and defensive, and walks over and again punches him in the face, shattering him into a bunch of pieces very violently. Kind of the head falls off in bits, and Ice then walks over. She's dressed in a shirt with no pants, and Chance's shirt, and she tips him over, cracking the entire body into little bits. And then she, basically kind of climbs on top of Chance, and you get the impression that they basically have sex in front of his dead body on a chair. And while this happens, they kind of cuddle, and then you see this ice, the ice that is a bit of Guy Gardner on the floor, slowly melting into blood. So you get a bloody pool, and then Chance and Ice start talking about how they're going to kind of cover up the body and hide the fact that they murdered a guy, and what are they going to do? So again, this is very much a noir type story, and that's about it. So the title's taken a bit of a hiatus, but the upshot here is that in addition to deconstructing the Justice League International, again, a title and a run that a lot of people hold very fond to their hearts, but some current creators, some current people seem to hold a lot of contempt for both that era and the people who like that era. And I don't think it's by chance that King decided to kind of go after a very beloved era of comics that, for whatever reason, current comic creators feel are, most liked by fans they don't want around anymore. And this has been something that's been said a few times around that Justice League run, of the people who like that blah-ha-ha era and who like Guy Gardner are the fans we don't want. Well, this series took care of that by, basically taking all of those members of Justice League International, revealing them all to be petty, small, and miserable people, and depressed, and then murdering off the kind of, first of all, taking the personality of this character and basically diminishing it into nothing, and then murdering the character, and then mocking it by fucking in front of it. That's what we've got. So, do I think Guy Gardner is dead? Well, it's Black Label, so in theory it's not in continuity, but Tom King has also stated expressly that his books are in continuity, and this one is as well. So we will see if it winds up that way. We'll also see if Ice manages to reconstruct Guy Gardner in some way, although him melting into a pool of blood doesn't indicate that. But I have every confidence Guy Gardner will be returned to life, if for no other reason than, the Warner Media is going to do a Green Lantern show at some point in the near future, that they've claimed, and Guy Gardner is supposed to be part of that show. So I do believe he is coming back to life at some point, and he won't stay dead. But it feels like, like with a lot of things, and I guess this is my question. I know I'm playing to the internet when I ask this. Why is DC allowing Tom King to just run through their characters and create these depressing, deconstructed views that that do get some sales. Human Target, I think, is selling in the 40s to 50s thousands. It's not massive. It doesn't seem like a sales number that you would, willingly kill off a character that you can make a lot of money on. But okay. But whether it's the whole Heroes in Crisis bit, which turned Wally West into a mass murderer, DC had to do a lot of logistics and work in order to reverse that. And they're in the same process of having to do similar things with Mr. Miracle. And so at some point, if you're DC, don't you ask yourself, hey, is it really worth the fairly modest sales that we're getting off this in order to have to do all this extra work to bring these characters back to life? And are we just at this point kind of just hoping people don't care and they forget about it? That's what it feels like. I don't understand where any part of this makes any sense whatsoever. And to me, this entire issue and kind of this story and everything else is super distasteful. I'm not a person that believes that you got to keep everything the same and you can never change and you can't, show a darker side of heroes. Of course not. You can certainly do it. I'm just tired of seeing Watchmen Light come out of this guy who seems to only have one comic idea. And I mean, I don't normally go after people, but this is just absurd. I don't understand why this is happening, why he's doing it. And we're all over the joke at this point. It's not particularly funny. It's not particularly shocking. And you're doing damage to your own company. Now DC will work hard to try and figure out how to reverse all this and get people to ignore it. Or maybe Tom King will, basically in the last 6 issues, find a way to reverse what he's done. But I've heard that, get a new story already. For God's sake, I do think Tom King has some skill as a writer. I do. I think he can put a structure together. I think he's shown that he can tell a complex story. I guess my comment is you're better than this. But increasingly, the more this stuff comes out and this issue, I'm losing faith you are better than this. I think there's some skill there in the writing, but why are we coming back to the same one note, deconstructive, damaging stuff that just it's pointless. Look at all you did with Wally West, and today DC wants to run away from that moment as fast as they can. They don't want to mention it. They don't want to go into it. They just want to ignore and pretend it never happened. Seems like a lousy, very childish way to discard characters. You set this up for a shock moment to tell the same kind of story you always tell over and over and over and over in the comics. We're tired of it. We've seen it before. It's not shocking. It's not interesting. We all just now get to look forward to how DC's going to unwind it, or if they're just going to try and move on and pretend it never happened in the first place. And what's the point? There's no value to this. You have a comic and a series, sells very well in omnibus, that people love and enjoy your company for. Why piss on that? I don't get it. But anyway, it's a not recommend. Thanks for listening.